Alright guys, we're finally back with Absolute Wonder Woman because issue 4 is here. So last time on issue number 3, we saw Wonder Woman fighting against the Tetracide, death personified, a monster that cannot be stopped. It's rare that we see Wonder Woman in a position where she's not really confident if she'll come out alive, but once we saw what this thing can do, we see why. See, once this thing makes a death sound, it will cause everyone in the entire city Wonder Woman is trying to protect to willingly walk into its belly and end their own lives. And it seemed like all hope was lost. Wonder Woman could not defeat this thing and she was running out of time before it made its death sound. But she came up with a plan to shield the entire city with a magical spell, causing them all to be deaf. Wonder Woman handicapped an entire city. But it's only temporary, so we need to figure out what her plan actually is, because if this wears off and she still hasn't defeated the monster, the entire city may be lost. Let's get into it. Now in issue 3, we saw Wonder Woman on the news telling everyone in the city to be calm, to be brave, and that she's gonna try and save them. But of course, making everyone deaf is gonna make them panic. So she was trying to give them words of encouragement. And we see a different view of that from two people in a store writing to each other because of course they're now deaf. Now with the way the Absolute Universe comics have been going, anytime I see a character and I just don't know who they are, they haven't been immediately introduced, I start guessing. So we see we're getting some kind of an emotional goodbye between the two of them, and it looks like the shorter haired woman is about to leave the store, like she's about to go do something. So I'm like, yo, is this Nubia? Are we about to have Nubia and Wonder Woman fight against the Tetracide? But before she's able to leave, Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor show up at the door. This is where we get an official introduction. This is Etta and Gia Candy. Now I couldn't find much on Gia, but Etta Candy is an OG character in the Wonder Woman mythos. They are always friends and close allies. So this is her introduction in the Absolute Universe, and it looks like the reason she is so useful here is that Steve Trevor was asked by Wonder Woman if he knew any witches, and he does. So now that we know that at some point this version of Etta Candy will be friends with Wonder Woman, her sister Gia is a witch, and that's who Diana needs help from at the time. She needs ingredients. See, her little metal arm is pretty strong, but she needs to be at her best if she's gonna defeat the Tetracide, and she is nowhere near that. So that's why she's here. She needs more ingredients from this fellow witch so that she can finally grow her arm back. Especially since she used the last of her things to deafen the city, and she used a little more to put a shield around this building so they can actually communicate. So she's definitely in need for more ingredients. I know this is obviously a way for them to just introduce Etta Candy and her sister Gia, but it's still cool that she don't got infinite things in that bag where she can keep making spells, and that she does actually need to restock on certain items. Kinda like in Spider-Man comics where we see Peter making new web fluid and putting new cartridges into his suit. It's just nice to get that little moment. And while she's conversing with Gia, we see Etta just gawking at her because of course, when Steve was released from hell by Wonder Woman, he went on and on telling different tales about how amazing Diana was. And Etta was making fun of him all this time, thinking that he might have been overselling it. But now she believes he undersold it. Now she continues to ask Gia for a lot of ingredients, and she lets her know that back in hell, her and her mother have a hard time getting some of these ingredients, but here they're very common. As Gia continues to walk around the store grabbing every little thing Diana needs. Now I'm not sure if Gia is legitimately smitten with Diana or she might just be really nervous. We have seen pretty much every single normal person, but like Steve Trevor, gawk at Wonder Woman. I mean, she's giant and beautiful and she's really nice. But I just wanted to point that out because she's been blushing the entire time. Now she has collected everything Diana needs, and she lets them know that she has to perform this spell somewhere other than the store because there's about to be a lot of blood. Now when she initially said this, I thought she may just do some spell and maybe there's going to be a giant blood explosion and magically she'd have an arm. And of course that blood explosion would ruin the shop, which is why she wanted to go somewhere else. What I did not expect is that Steve, Gia, and Etta would have to give their blood as she smeared it all over her face and chest, which is absolutely disgusting, but maybe since Wonder Woman is not human and she's extremely powerful, she's immune to human diseases. I truly hope so. But either way, we see her chanting to the goddess Hecate so that she's able to get her arm back as she's then blasted with energy. Now just like the other issues, we're getting yet another flashback. Now we see Circe, the mother of Wonder Woman, running out in fear, and then she immediately throws up as a mysterious figure says, "The visions have started then." Now we haven't seen Circe like this in a while. When we first saw her, she was very snarky when it came to speaking to other gods, but here she doesn't even raise her head, basically talking to the ground while conversing with this mysterious being. We learn that whoever this is, they are the reason that she was sent to hell, imprisoned, and they never got her out. They allowed Wonder Woman to be placed in Circe's care, and they knew exactly how it would all played out. How Wonder Woman would change Circe, and how Circe would be the only person that could change Wonder Woman. that the universe needed a hero, and that this duo here in hell being together like this is exactly what is needed. Whoever this is, they knew how it all would play out. They know exactly how important Diana is to the story, the kind of hero she'll become. And with this being explaining how everything was set in motion and how basically Diana is the main character of some giant story about being the hero the universe needs, it turns out this being is the goddess Hecate. And I just need you guys to look at this design. It is absolutely amazing. As Hecate tells her, "Look upon Hecate and know you are blessed and will be remembered." So although Circe had to suffer a bit, she's been trapped in hell, given a kid she didn't really want, at the end of the day she was able to raise a daughter and find love that changed her, and that love changed Diana. And with that, we've seen Diana is an amazing person, willing to lay down her life to save the entire world. So after having this encounter with Hecate, she goes back to her room where Diana is sleeping, as they both tell each other they had bad dreams. And we learn that after this day, the visions came from time to time. She saw what Diana would become, the pain she would have to go through, but how she would also persevere. So while raising Diana, she was pretty much well aware of how the story would go and the kind of hero she would be. But the sad part about all this is that she knew at some point Diana was gonna have to leave. And because she had fell in love with her, it would be so lonely to be trapped in hell without her daughter. And when I first read this, I had not realized there are literal demons sleeping all around them, because I completely forgot Diana is really good at taming them. So we see even as a child, she's got a whole little army sleeping with her and her mother. But this scene between her and Hecate really just shows that Circe had it rough, and it really is hard not to feel bad for her, forcing this child on her, forcing her to love this child, and then forcing her to let the child go. And then giving all these visions of what may become of that kid, and she's powerless to do anything about it. It's honestly really sad. So the best she could do is prepare her and make her as powerful as possible so that she can go on her own and actually defend herself. And we get back to the present where we see she is still covered in blood, but her arm has not returned. As she wipes the blood from her face and begins to speak to Etta. She realized when she was walking into the shop with Steve Trevor, Etta was actually going to help, despite all the danger, because that's who she is. Etta is a good person, and they start to get to know each other a little better, and it looks like this may be the beginning of a beautiful friendship between the two. Now the lovely moment is cut a bit short because she sees the Tetracide is attacking the city. It's getting closer and it's about to embed. She needs to find a way to hurry up and kill this thing. Now I was a bit surprised that the Tetracide stopped making the Death of Fear sound. I thought it would simply continue to do that, and eventually Wonder Woman's spell would fail, it would just dissipate, and then people would start to walk into its belly, ending their own lives. But nope, since she did the spell and it realized nobody is walking into its belly, it's now going into the city to attack everyone. So that deafening spell was honestly a pretty easy solution to the monster. But now she has to figure out how to actually kill it. More importantly, she needs to lure it back to the beach, as she summons this giant sword that we've seen in a lot of the Absolute Wonder Woman artwork. As she digs back in her bag and she pulls out a bottle with red liquid in it, and she whispers to the bottle, "Be what the monster craves most." As she throws it against the bridge, it now starts to emit a noise of people wailing and crying out in pain. This is what the monster wants most. It wants to hear their suffering as they all walk into his belly, which is pretty creepy, but this does draw him back to the beach for Wonder Woman's plan. Now Wonder Woman realizes her first idea of trying to hack and slash the monster was not a bad one, it just wasn't big enough. So she increases the size of her sword, and this might be, it's cool, but the dumbest and funniest part of the issue to me is that it turns out, despite how complicated this fight has been with the Tetracide, the different steps Diana has had to take, the different flashbacks we've seen between these fights, the fact that she even lost an arm, what she needed to do to defeat Death Personified, the most powerful creature we've ever seen so far, is to simply take the sword she used in their first encounter, make it bigger, and then cut it again. In half! Now listen, this was cool. The sword is massive, I'm sure power scalers can have a ball with this fight. This was awesome that she takes this big fuck you sword and just slices the Tetracide in half. But after reading these issues, I would be lying to you, ladies and gentlemen, if I did not say this felt a bit dragged out and this is how she had to deal with it. Because she was really thinking, how would I ever defeat the Tetracide? Death Personified. It's over. GG. She's telling the people to evacuate. She was certain of her death. And of all these magical spells, all she needed to do was increase the size of her sword and cut it in half. It just seems a little underwhelming. I have to tell you, I've been loving these issues, but my god, what was that? But anyway, after cutting it in half, She then thanks her mother, and we realize, just like all of the other DC and even some Marvel comics, the government is not even happy with the fact that she just saved not only the city, but the world, because they realized the fact that Wonder Woman was able to not only deafen an entire city, but murder the Tetracide, which is basically Armageddon right in front of them. They are not happy because that means they have a being on Earth even more powerful than that creature. They still have a big problem: Wonder Woman. As the issue ends and we see the next issue is called No Good Deed, which makes perfect sense because it looks like after everything she's done, even sacrificing an arm, she is still going to have to deal with the government because their distrust of her has only increased since she was able to kill such a powerful being. I hope you guys enjoyed the issue, and I will catch you on the next one.